Okay, so hopefully this is all working correctly. I'm attempting to stream a direct setup mirror of my desktop. I'm using a Macbook Air. It's kind of old. I think it's like a 2011 or 2010 something. Right now I have Chrome open, which has my email, Twitter, and the live dashboard from this. Hopefully the stream is okay. I know from me talking, I think the stream is like maybe like 30 seconds off from me speaking. So we'll see. Hopefully this is okay. This is my first time, so I hope it's not a disaster. I've got my streaming software here. I use OBS. I literally just downloaded it like an hour ago. I'm not really that familiar with it, so we'll see. And right now I've got my folders here, my photo folders. I'm using an external hard drive, just one that plugs in. I think it's 500 gigs. The way I generally sort my photos on here is I have like I have a year, a 2017 a year folder, and then under that I have month folders. So I have 7/2017 for July 2017, and then I date my folders by the day I took the pictures and the subjects that I took them of. So I went out and I photographed skateboarders today, and I photographed the New Orleans skyline downtown. So I have both of those folders from today, and then if you click into a folder, I have my all folder, which has every skateboard image I took today. I took about 350 or so, 330, something like that, today of skateboarders. And then I have my selects folder, and what I'm going to do first whenever I get started is I'm going to go through my all, and I'm basically going to look through them in like the cover mode, is that what it's called? Cover flow. And I'm going to copy the ones that I like, and I'm going to put them in my selects folder. So I might end up with about 20 maybe of the 300 pictures in my selects folder. And then once I have them selected, I import those into Lightroom. I don't have Lightroom open yet, but I will soon. I'll import those into Lightroom. And then as I work on them in Lightroom, I will export them into my 719 Lightroom folder. So eventually this folder is going to be my exported pictures from Lightroom once I get started on them. So, so we'll see. I don't know what this means. Apparently I have bad video settings right now, and I don't know how to change this. Because I've never done this before. Potentially serious viewing issues. Yes, that's what I want, is serious viewing issues. Let me see if I can do anything about that right now. Yeah, I've never done this before, so so there's a very good chance that this stream could be a disaster. So hopefully that's not the case, but I think I'm just gonna kind of power through it and see what's going on. All right, I'm just gonna get rolling, and I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. I doubt anybody's gonna be watching this anyway, but if it like truly looks like garbage, or if the stream is really terrible, let me know, and maybe I can restart it or something. I've never really done this before, so we'll see how it looks, but I don't really know what to do, so I'm just gonna start. So the first thing I do is I go to my all, I bring up my selects folder, I'm in a separate tab, and I keep my all folder in the left tab, and I'm going to copy over the pictures as the good ones as I look through them. So I open these in cover flow so I can get a pretty good idea of the pictures. And I'll also delete ones in here. Like obviously this was the very first shot I took of the day. It's probably gonna take like an hour to open this picture. I hate the preview on cover flow with raw files because it takes like 400 years for a picture to open on here, and it's so annoying. Yeah, see, this is my very first shot of the day. It was a test shot to see if the shutter speed was good, if the aperture was good to bring in enough lighting. Because today I got to the skate park and there's like the bowl area, which is what we're looking at here, and then there's like which is under a highway. The skate park here is directly under like a highway overpass. Like the ceiling up there is the ceiling up here, that's like the highway up there, and that's a pair of high heels hanging from the overpass. And the bowl area is dark because there's not a whole lot of light coming in. The only light is coming in from over here and over here where the other road is. So I usually have to keep my shutter speed a lot slower than if I were photographing out here. You might not be able to tell, but it was raining a lot today. There's rain out there coming down from the sides. It started pouring on my way to the skate park today, which was great. It was sunny all day and beautiful, and then 5 minutes before I get to the skate park, it's raining like crazy outside, but that is New Orleans for you. So that was my first shot of the day. It's garbage, so I'm just going to delete it because I won't use it. And my second shot is the shot of one of the skaters who I photograph every once in a while, which is going to take 100 years to load. See, I actually like this picture quite a bit. It was a really off-the-cuff shot, but this guy wasn't in a very good mood today, and he asked me not to photograph him, so I'm not going to edit any pictures of him. I took, like, I think those... yeah, maybe those 2 pictures of him, and he was like, hey, I don't really want to be photographed today, and I was like, okay, cool, like, well, I'll just not do that, and then he left like 5 minutes later. So despite the fact that that's an alright shot and his body language is pretty killer in it, I won't use it because he didn't want me to photograph him, so that's fine. And then these other shots, what I usually do is I just use my arrow keys to go through the pictures, and I wait until I see one that I think is pretty good. And then like that one might be one that I might want to edit, and then I'll just copy it and paste it over to the selects folder. And like this was a test shot, it's garbage. This was also a test shot, it's garbage. Yeah, I don't know what I think I'm gonna stop the stream and restart it and see if I can handle this bad video settings thing. I'm worried that this is not working very well. So I'll be back. Give me just a minute. I'm gonna see if I can fix this. All right, I don't know if this is gonna work, but let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through these pictures and try to find, just try to pick out the ones that I like the most, and then we can start editing them pretty soon. I'm gonna rearrange my desk space just a little bit. Okay, hopefully the stream will be a little bit better this time. I updated the resolution a tad on the output, so hopefully that looks better. Yeah, that's a great picture. I hate shooting skateboarders in the bowls because they skate all over the place, and it's really hard to find like a good vantage point for them, because I never quite know like where they're gonna pop up and where they're gonna do tricks. So I just kind of stand around like an idiot. That one's overexposed. I have a feeling this streaming software is really like killing all the energy out of this computer because these pictures are not even loading. This is a problem that I never have. Hey Parker, my computer is telling me that I have like bad video settings. Will you let me know if the stream is like awful or not? Because I never do this, so I'm not really sure like the best way to do it. Because I think this streaming software is sapping just about all the energy out of this computer. Okay, if you say so, that's good news for me. I have a feeling my laptop's just gonna like go up in flames because I think I'm working it like overtime right now, because this is a MacBook Air that's like old, and I'm pretty sure that it's like the bottom of the line MacBook Air. Parker, I'm using OBS. I've never used this before. I downloaded it like an hour ago, and because it was like the first one that came up on a Google search, and just kind of went through it real quick to see how to get the computer up, and here we are. But if you have recommendations for something else, I am all ears. It's somewhat choppy, but it's fine. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it then. Just let me know if it gets like really terrible, and maybe I'll try to, because I don't really know how to do all this streaming bullshit, so I'm not really tech savvy enough to be like, oh, let me look at the video encoding settings. So just let me know if it gets too garbagey, and I'll see if I can do something about it. But it's kind of killing me because these pictures are not, like usually whenever I go through this, these pictures are all perfectly loaded, and right now they're like not even loading in like their thumbnails and cover flow, so it's kind of like that's not good at all. See, these pictures aren't even loading. Let me go back to this view. I probably should have picked these photos out and then just started the stream once I was in Lightroom, because these pictures are not loading very well. Might be able to just... I freaking hate the preview whenever I use RAW files on this computer because it takes them so long to open. Like, that picture is mediocre. These preview shots are like super low res too. It's hard for me to figure out what are the good ones and what are the garbage ones. I'm just going to kind of play the guessing game on these pictures for right now. Usually this is a lot smoother because these pictures load a lot faster, but because I've got the streaming software going and the YouTube's up, this is not going very fast right now. Just like that's an alright picture. I got a series of shots of this guy doing the same trick like over and over again, where he was planting his hand on the side of the half pipe. The bummer is that he never landed the trick, but I still got some good shots out of it. That's one of the problems or the crises that I always have with skate photography, is that I don't know anything about skateboarding, but I photograph it a lot, and I always have a problem where I try to only post pictures of people when I know that they landed whatever trick they were attempting. But sometimes the picture is just so good that I have to post it even if they didn't land it. And I mean, like, really, who's going to know? I'm going to know, and the person who did the trick is going to know. Maybe I should like subscribe to a skateboarding magazine or something and start looking at how the pros are photographed. See, like that looks pretty good. Sorry, gotta check Twitter. One of the guys that I photograph is sometimes like really particular. Like I've started going to him to like ask, like I'll take a picture of him and then I'll immediately show him and I'll be like, okay, out of these three, like which one's the good one? And he's very particular about like how he likes the skateboard to be pointing whenever whenever the trick is going, because I have the problem where I tend to like when someone's doing an ollie that's basically like a jump where the skateboard comes up with them. I like the jumping picture where the skateboard is like tilted and like arced up in the air, but I guess that's like the easy part of the move. So it's better. He was telling me that it's better to get the down side, like, you know, sort of like anybody can make it up in the air, but how they balance the skateboard in the air and come out of an ollie or like out of a kickflip or something like that, sort of like the where like the essence of the trick is. So that's like where I should be capturing it, but I just don't like those pictures as much. I don't like the body language in them as much, and I don't like the skateboard positioning in them as much, even if it is technically like the better picture, if you will. But I always think about that now whenever I'm looking at skateboarding pictures, to try to get the shots where like the feet are coming back down onto the board, because those are supposed to be the good ones. But I actually don't think most of the guys care about their board positioning. And also stuff that really bothers me personally in photography is like this picture, for example. It's kind of blurry because it's not loading very well. But like I cut his fingers off right here, and that bothers me so much. Like if I had gotten the rest of his digits in this picture, I might pull this one into Lightroom and see what I can do with it, because the picture itself doesn't look that great, but I know that I can make it look better in Lightroom, but I cut his fingers off, so it's worthless. Like sometimes I'll do that, like I'll accidentally cut like the edge of someone's shoe off or something, and it just kills me every time. I like to get the whole body in the shot. This is the scooter sequence. This guy at the skate park found this scooter, I guess, somewhere out of the skate park, and he rode around in it like a dork and eventually like tore it apart, and we will get to those pictures in a little bit. He was like banging it on the ground and banging it up against stuff and trying to break it, which he successfully did. And if these pictures would load, then we'd be able to see them. Jeez, come on. 8163. I really like how these pictures are just like not loading at all. That's really cool. I'm gonna switch up my video size, and I'll be right back. Give me a minute, because this is not working for me right now. Okay, let's see if that's a little bit better. This series is them trying to break the scooter, which you can tell they were successful with. So the way they bent the handle, eventually they break the whole thing off. I was hoping I might be able to salvage some of these pictures, but they're all kind of silly, so probably not. Oh, I do like this one though. If it'll load before next weekend. Because the handlebar is completely bent at a right angle and he's jumping, like doing like sort of like an ollie type thing. I think that's pretty good. I might be able to clean that one up a little bit better in Lightroom. That one's not bad too. Damn it. Yeah, he had completely bent it like a dork. Sometimes once I have these pictures loaded and like the cover preview, I'll just go back and forth like 50 times until I decide which one I like better, which I think is that one. That's something I do a lot too, is I'll have, like, especially whenever I'm photographing skateboarding or photographing parkour, whenever there is somebody who's attempting a trick like several times, I'll end up having like, you know, 10 shots of a person trying to do the exact same trick, and then I have to go through all of those pictures and try to decide who has the best, like which one looks the best, and also try to keep in mind which one they actually, like which version of the trick they actually landed. I kind of want one of these pictures, but I can't tell if any of them are actually any good. Maybe like that crucial, so it's not a big deal. In this picture, he threw the piece of scooter up in the air and tried to get it to go over the fence out there, but these pictures are not in focus. They were not very good pictures. I was trying to get this guy who was skating the bowls, but it was not easy. Bowl skateboarding photography is difficult for me. I like these pictures. This guy was jumping up in the air like to ollie, and this guy, he would slap the board and make it spin, and then the guy jumping would try to come back down on it. I thought it was kind of funny. I think he called it like a friendship flip. It was really silly, but it was cute. See, I like a picture like this where the person is sort of, he's like at the peak of his jump, and where you can see the graphic on the underside of the skateboard, but this is allegedly an inferior sort of skateboarding picture, because ideally I would have wanted to get maybe about just a fraction of a second after this, where his feet were about to come back down on the board. I think I'm going to run both of them through Lightroom just in case. But I always like pictures where you can see the board graphic on them, because a lot of skateboarders, they have very colorful, very like interesting graphics, and sometimes they're bright colors, like they're like hot pink or hot green, or they have like a graffiti like image on them, and I like seeing those graphics, but it's better to get a picture of the person's feet coming back down on the board. These are bad test shots. This is perfect because it was approaching golden hour territory, so I was getting really good lighting on these guys at the end of the day. This guy only came up on the ramp a few times, but I was trying to get him. I can't tell which picture is better out of these two yet. I cannot believe it takes this long to load these pictures in this computer. This must be really exciting to watch. But see, look at that nice gold light on the side of his face and lighting up his pants. Oh, it's just beautiful. I've never really done golden hour like skateboarding photography until today, but then I did, and it was beautiful. See, I like this picture because I like his hand over here, how it's like he's kind of doing like a blade hand, but I think this is the more technically impressive skateboard shot because he's like up on like the grind. So I'm gonna copy that one over. language on that one's really good, even though it might not be a very technically impressive shot. This guy grinding. See, I like pictures like this, where they're coming up into the air, even though it's technically a less impressive, like, showcasing of a skateboarder's abilities. I got a lot of really good shots of him on this sequence. Where he was grinding on this concrete rail. So just look at that lighting on the side of his torso. That's so nice, those shadows. And I like a shot like this where his fingers are right on the edge of the frame, because he's filling the frame as much as he possibly can without going out of it. I think I like the picture before just a little bit more though. Like that picture, of course, I cut his hand off, which is my favorite. I like these shots because I was basically all the way down on the ground with my ear nearly on the concrete trying to get these shots of him coming directly at the camera, and it was very scary. Basically putting my trust completely in these skateboarders as they rocket directly toward my face and my camera and my lens. See, and I like this picture because I like the way he's arced, and I like that he's closer to me, but I don't like that I can't see his other arm. That really bothers me. Same thing with the picture after it, but the picture before it, I wish that he were a little bit closer to me, but I like that you can actually see his arm, because in the other pictures it doesn't look like he has his left arm, which is problematic for me as a photographer, not for him, because there's nothing wrong with somebody if they're missing a limb, of course. See, and then like this one, I hate this too, where you can't see his arm, but you can see his two fingers down there. Like, it's little things like that that bother the crap out of me whenever it comes to photography. I'm gonna take this one, even though you can't see his arm in it. It's like a perfect grind. Like his hand in the air. That's good body language. The lighting is just the best. I was trying to get a little bit of like rule of thirds action in this picture where he's on more skewed left. He's almost center here, but he's a little bit left, and then there's more open space over here, rather than shooting him dead on. I try to do rule of thirds whenever I can, but when you're shooting action photography, it's not always easy because shit's happening quickly. Man, that's a beautiful shot. I mean, not to toot my own horn. I like how it's getting progressively darker. This shot is probably the shot of the day, if I had to call it. I like the way his hat casts a shadow over his eyes too. That's good. I like that shot because he's a little bit up off his board, even though that's probably not very technically impressive as far as skateboarding goes, because he was probably about to bail. This guy's a really good skater, and he did a lot of tricks for me several times. Pretty good too. I like that one too. I like that his arms are going sort of along the top frame. I like the skateboard positioning, even though it might not be that technically impressive. See, I got so many pictures of him doing these moves. So one like sunset shot to cap it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna import all these pictures into Lightroom. Hopefully this doesn't fuck everything up because this stream is having a hard enough time running as it is. Let's open Lightroom and hope that this doesn't make the computer explode. Sometimes it takes Lightroom a little while to start. All right, boom. Okay, this picture I was editing in Lightroom earlier. I took this shot in Seattle about a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago. Actually, I can tell you exactly when I took it. I took it on July 13th, 2017 at 6:19 p.m. That's when I took it. I'm almost done editing this picture, even though I'm not sure if this is how I want it to end up. But the cool thing, one of my favorite things about Lightroom is that the / key shows you the before and after of you editing it, and you before you edited it. This is what it looked like before I laid a single Lightroom brush finger on it, and this is what it looks like now. So you can see I really intensified the clouds and the blues in it, and sharpened it and just made it more higher contrast and more dynamic, whereas this one just kind of looks like a parking lot. Like, it's just not very interesting. And of course I overdid it with the clouds. One thing I do in photography a lot is really boost dehazing in clouds and like contrast in clouds and really bring out the colors in the sky. That's just sort of an aesthetic that I'm into. But let's back up. What I'll do is I'll import, and then you have to go through the sources over here. This is EHD2, external hard drive 2. Go to my 2017 folder, 2017, 719 skaters, 719 selects, and then it'll bring up all the pictures that I just copied into that folder, and these are all the ones that I want to go through to edit right now. And then click import, and here they come. Sometimes it takes a minute for this to go. And of course, because I'm running streaming software, it's probably going to take even longer. Lightroom, I bet, is going to run really slow right now. All right, perfect. So my pictures are here. These are all the ones I'm going to be working on from today, from skateboarding. I'm going to go back out to this folder, and I'm actually going to close out the selects folder. I'm going to go back to this folder. I'm going to go to Lightroom, because as I export them, I'm going to be looking at them in this folder just to make sure that they don't look like out of control or anything. I'm going to send out a little tweet again just to say that I'm still working. In case anybody wants to come hang out with my bad video settings. Streaming might look like balls, but I'm moving on to the Lightroom portion of the stream. Okay, let's see if I can make these pictures, clean them up a little bit in Lightroom. So in Lightroom, whenever I import them, I don't do anything special. I just import them. I'm pretty sure there's a way you can do like preset things to import whenever you import them, but I'm not a professional. I've only been using Lightroom for, gosh, maybe like 6 months or so, roughly. I'm definitely not an expert in any way, shape, or form. These are just things that I know and things that I've picked up. But once I get rolling, I put the picture in the Develop tab, or module, if you will. And you've got all the stuff here on the side. The color, temperature, the tint, exposure, contrast. You have the first set of highlight, shadows, whites, and blacks, the presence. And then you have your second set of highlight, lights, darks, and shadows, your point curve, your color values, split toning, sharpening and softening. You can do lens adjustments depending on what kind of lens you use. If you need to like reprofile your shit, you can do that. Vignetting, leveling, and transforming, which is stuff I don't do very much of. And then the grain and dehaze and stuff down here. For a general idea of how I roll, the first thing I always do is I go to the point curve and I take linear to medium contrast. Sometimes I take it strong. It just depends on, you know, kind of what I'm going for. But medium contrast is the first thing I always do. And as you can tell, one thing I always do whenever I'm in Lightroom is I keep going back and forth to look at the picture from before I touched it to when to where I'm at right now. So like this is before I did anything, and that was the medium contrast bump. And as you can tell, the medium contrast just gives the picture a little bit more depth, more shadow. It just makes it look a little bit more dynamic, whereas before it kind of looks like a parking lot. That's like my favorite way to describe drab pictures, is by saying they look like parking lots. And my pictures, they do just look like parking lots most of the time, but once I start getting them rolling through Lightroom, I just make them look better. So I always do contrast first, and then I jump down all the way down to dehaze, and I always bump dehaze up about 15 to 20 values. And as you can tell, dehaze just kind of darkens and cleans. I don't even know what technically dehaze does, but it just makes darks look darker, and it kind of takes like some of the fuzziness and some of like a little bit of the overexposure bloom out of it, because in order to expose him correctly when I was shooting, I had to account for the fact that there was a really bright sky back here, because most of the area around him was dark, but I was shooting directly into this sky back here, which, as you can tell, got completely blown out in the picture. It's all white back there. So I had to overexpose the back in order to expose him at all, because if I had exposed for what's back here, then he would be like a silhouette, which is maybe something I could solve in Lightroom. It's just one of those things where you kind of have to pick your battles on what you want to expose for. And of course I was exposing for him because he was what I was shooting. I wasn't trying to shoot the sky back there. But luckily, either or, depending on how blown out the sky is or how shadowed the athlete is, usually that's something you can fix in Lightroom. And you fix it by, or I fix it by doing the highlights and shadows right here. This is the next thing I do. Highlights, usually I pull them pretty far down depending on what they do. As you can see, the highlights, like the blooming that's around here, it brings the leaves out a little bit. Like this is before and this is after. It just pulls the whites down. Like if you could see the sky back here, if this were clouds, pulling the highlights down would probably let you see the clouds individually. But it was so blown out that is not a chance that's going to happen. And then shadows, I can pull that up. I don't really feel like I need to pull the shadows up because it's just going to de-contrast the image. I'll pull them up just a little bit. And then whites and blacks, one trick that you can do is you can hold the Alt key while you move these sliders, and it turns, if you go white, the white slider, it turns the picture black, and then I just push it up until some white dots start coming through right there on the bottom left. If you take it up even further, it'll make the whites white. This is giving you a true white in your picture. I pull it until the dots just start to show, and then I back it off a little bit because I don't want the picture to look too blown out, because increasing the whites will increase sort of like the highlights in the picture, and it'll just make it look lighter, but not necessarily in a good way. And then blacks, it's the same thing. It turns the screen white, and then if you pull down, it'll start to show the true blacks peeking through. And I actually like to push the true blacks, because I back off on the whites a little bit, but I push the true blacks down because I value a greater contrast in my photography rather than making it look less contrasty, if you will. It's probably not the best way to put it. And then this is where I can go back again. This is the picture before, and this is where it is as I'm toning it so far. As you can see, it's darker, the blacks are truer, the whites are truer. I can probably pull the shadows up. No, actually, I'll leave it. And clarity, if you push clarity up, it sharpens and kind of makes it look a little bit gritty. Like if you push it all the way up, it's kind of like a, kind of like a crazy Instagram filter. And if you pull it down, it like softens everything. Like it kind of makes it look like a dream, like a very soft dream. Sometimes, usually in an action shot, I like to push it up just a little bit. But sometimes I pull it down to soften it. It just, I don't know. I haven't really settled on what I like to do with clarity. It's like a case-by-case basis. Sometimes I like to sharpen things and make it look gritty. I think it lends itself to skateboarding, because skateboarding is, kind of an extreme sport. But sometimes I just like to soften things depending on the way the picture looks. Vibrance will take any colors that are not already saturated in the picture, and it'll make them bloom more. So if I push saturation up, or vibrance up, I mean, you can see like in the bottom right, it's bringing some blues out in the concrete. It's pushing the greens and the plants a little bit. It's just taking any color that exists that's not like already saturated and just making it saturated. Usually I push a vibrance up a little bit. I tend to leave saturation alone because saturation pushes all the colors. So if I push it all the way up, you can see he basically turned completely orange and yellow. If I back it off, it'll turn the picture into more of like a grayscale situation. This is another case-by-case thing I do. Sometimes I push vibrance a lot and I leave saturation alone. Sometimes I push vibrance and I pull saturation up too if I want the picture to be extra colorful. Sometimes I'll push vibrance and I'll pull saturation down just to make the image a little bit softer. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. This is not a very good example because this picture is pretty is very mediocre. This shot, this is not like a prized shot that I got today. It's just like, this is one of those shots that's just like fine, and I'm gonna try to make it like good in Lightroom. It's not a shot that's like excellent that I'm gonna make like amazing in Lightroom. Not that I tend to value my photography a lot anyway. I'm not the kind of person that you know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, this shot's so amazing, because I'm like, whatever. I'm not gonna sit here and like toot my own horn a bunch about my own photography. And these are more detailed highlights and darks. See, if I pull this down a little bit, the concrete on the ground, it makes it more gray because it's pulling the whites down in it to get them less overexposed, which I like because I'd rather have the concrete look gray than have the concrete look white. And if I pull the lights down, it does even more. But I usually push the lights up. Usually I push the darks up a little bit too, and then push the shadows down just a little bit. So that's before, this is now, before now. He's looking a little bit orange to me, which is not great. So you can see how gritty the picture looks up close because I was shooting at ISO 1600. My camera does not handle ISO very well. So that's why it looks super gritty up close, but luckily we can fix that later. I mean, a little bit. But if he's looking, usually if the person's body is looking a little bit orange or a little bit red, a little bit oversaturated, one thing you can do is in the colors, you can pull, like, you could pull orange down to make him look a little more neutral, or you can pull red down, or you can, you know, move him up and down to kind of pull the skin tones around a little bit, or you can go in luminance and push the orange up because that'll make the orange values like lighter in the picture, or you can pull it down and it'll make it darker, but that would make him look ridiculous. But usually what I do first is I split tone first, because I use split toning as sort of like a form of white balancing. I take the highlight saturation up to 5. Usually I do it the same way every time. I take the highlights up to 5, and then I pull this down, and it changes the color in a very subtle way, the highlight colors. And usually I pull it around the blues, because I tend to, in my photography aesthetic, I tend to go for like a softer, cooler sort of aesthetic, if you will. So usually I bring it to the blues and I leave it there. Shadows, I usually do the same thing. I push the shadow saturation up to 5, and then I pull it over until it's in sort of in the blue area as well. And that desaturated him a little bit on its own, because that's before split toning and after. It's a very subtle just color tone difference, but that's just the way that I like to do it. I can pull the orange down a little bit too here, just to desaturate him a tiny bit more, so that he doesn't look so so orange. But this picture is not, it's not a great example. I feel like this is not a very good picture. And then sharpening, I usually just sort of drag sharpening up until it looks fine. It might look kind of silly. Like usually between like 70 and 90 is where I go. Usually I push masking up to about 5. Masking is if you hold Alt and do the slider like you do on the whites and blacks, if you push it up, it starts to do that. And basically any stuff that's, I hope I'm getting this right, any stuff that's black is stuff that's not going to get sharpened. So usually you can push that up and it'll like turn the sky dark, because you don't really need to sharpen the sky in a picture. You want the sky to be soft. And I usually do that just to kind of avoid that for people too. And the noise reduction, I usually take up to about 15. It just softens the grain of the picture, some of the grit of it. So like if I take this down, you can see it's really hard to see, but the picture is a lot grainier. And if I turn it back on, it sort of smooths it out, but sometimes it takes a minute to work. Like there, it's like noisier, and then there it's smoother. It's still gritty, but it's just a little bit smoother. Sometimes I'll even push the noise up to like 20, because if I shoot high ISO, it's just always grainy. It's a mess. Usually I throw a little vignette on there just to bring the eye to the center of the photo. I'm not going to level it. I don't think I need to do that. And really that's it. I mean, you have the before, you have the after. It's just an alright picture. It's not amazing, but see how before it looks like a parking lot, and now it's like a little bit more dynamic. The colors are a little bit more finely tuned, I guess. I'm just going to leave this picture. This isn't a great picture, so I'm not going to spend really any more time on it. What I'll do here, I'm going to choose a specific folder in my export. Go to hard drive 2, go to 2017, 7, skaters, Lightroom, and I will export all these pictures to that folder. I always sharpen for screen on standard, because it just makes the pictures look better on screens. I have a little watermark that I throw on, export, and now it's going to export the picture. And then once it's done, it'll be here in this folder. Sometimes it takes a minute to export. Alright, boom, there it is. So once I look at the preview image, I mean, it looks fine. My watermark's down there in the bottom corner. That's pretty much it. Sometimes it looks really grainy here, but no matter how grainy it looks in this picture, it'll always look softer once it's on like a phone screen. It's just the sharpening that makes it look kind of ridiculous. Alright, I'm going to go back and actually edit a picture that's like maybe good. See, like these are pretty good. I like that one because he's like fully extended. His feet probably aren't on the board, but they look like they're on the board. His arms fully extended, his mouth is open, he's got a good expression. I like that picture. I'll probably crop it in just a little bit though to get more of the focus on him. Oh shit. Lock that ratio, bring it in, get him. I'll know the crop has the rule of thirds line, get him on the line, and boom. There, I like that. Because he's in the center, balance between the top and bottom, but his body is mostly on the left side of the frame. I like it. Alright, now let's see where we can go from here. As always, I'll move the point curve up to medium to give the picture some depth, make it look a little more dynamic. And even if it gets too shadowed for moving that up, I can always fix that with the shadow slider later. Dehaze, I'll pump that up, which will further make the shadows look a little darker. I'll just take it up to 10. Let's see. Highlights, there's not really much to pull down. These like interior shots, the highlight slider doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, it'll make the concrete look a little bit darker, but sometimes that's not an aesthetic that I want to go for. I'll pull it down just a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the grit and the concrete right there. Pull the shadows up. It'll just brighten up the area up top a little bit and kind of brighten up like his thigh area, because sometimes when people are wearing dark clothes you lose the detail in there, like in his crotch, I guess, for better or worse, like because it's a little bit too dark right there, but you can see more of the detail right there from pulling the shadows up. And the whites and blacks, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to push the whites up. See how the white area is showing down there. I'm going to back it off a little bit. So it's up 0.7. The black's already showing straight off the bat. I'm going to pull it down just a little bit to deepen it. The clarity, I might push it up like 5, add a little bit of grit. The vibrance I can probably push up. Pull the vibrance up. So the vibrance is really pulling some of the color out up here in the beams. If you look up, pull it down, pull it up. And I like that sometimes because it gives the picture, I like pulling vibrance up because it gives the picture a lot more character. It brings some like unknown colors to the front a little bit more, which I enjoy. And then usually in this case I would lean off saturation a little bit. I might even pull it down 5. So this is before, this is after. Before, after, you can see the beams are a little greener, a little yellower. His skin is a little bit more orange. I can fix that with split toning, but I like the way this is looking right now. This quality. And these highlights I might not mess with very much. Pull it down. I'll actually leave it. Yeah. Pull the lights up a little bit. Pull the darks up just a tiny bit, and then push the shadows down to deepen the darkest areas of the picture. Yeah, I think that's alright. Now I'm going to move up to split toning to do some, like I said earlier, I use white balance more like for split toning, or I use split toning for kind of a white balance thing. I'm going to pull it over to the blue until I get it, because this will make his skin tone a little bit, it'll ease the orange off of his skin tone a little bit if I push these both to blue, which is what I want. I push that one a little bit more. See, and then split toning off, split toning on. It just gives it a very subtle color toning difference. I love split toning. It took me a really, really long time to like discover it and use it, I guess, but I like it. Sharpening, I can sharpen this picture quite a bit, probably. Maybe back it off a little bit. Take the masking up by 5. Noise reduction, I'll probably do 15, because I know this shot's pretty grainy. Sometimes I'll take the detail, take it off, and put it back on, just to see how it affects the picture. Come on, off. Yeah, see how it's so dirty and grainy, and then when I put it on, it really just cleans it up and kind of softens the picture a little bit more. Yeah, this is a quality shot. I'm excited about this one. Vignette, throw a little vignette in there. I always do a little bit just to draw the eyes in. Gosh, is that it? It's before, after, before, after, before, after. I always do this when I edit. I just bounce back and forth. Yeah, I think one thing I can do, I don't know if I'm going to be sold on this yet. Sometimes, like I'm going to pull the yellow value down and see if it pulls some of the yellow out of here and if I like that more or not, because yellow tends to give an image a little bit of a warmer tone, and I prefer a cooler tone in a picture. And sometimes just backing one color off is enough to make the image look a little bit cooler, because see, if I push the yellow up, it really pops in those beams, and if I bring it down, it just cancels it a little bit. I think I'll take it down to like 10 just to keep the focus right there. And of course, photography is all subjective, so you know, that's kind of the neat thing about photography is, like, you know, on the surface it seems like okay, you take the picture and then that's the end of it, and whatever picture you have, maybe it's good, maybe it's garbage, maybe it's you know, but that's, no matter what it is, that's all you have the one picture. But that's really not true, because once you get it in Lightroom, you can edit it, you know, you can edit a picture a million different ways, and everybody, it's like one of those things where you could give, like, I could give, you know, 30 people one of these pictures and tell them, you know, hey, put it in Lightroom and, you know, go haywire, do what you want to do, and you know, you'll come out with 30 different looking pictures, which is neat. You know, because editing is totally subjective. It just kind of depends on what you like, how you want your pictures to look. So take the contrast up again. I like this shot because this dude was like sweating a lot, and you can see the sweat like on his side and on his back, which I think is a great detail. I think he's just one of those dudes who like naturally sweats a ton. The dehaze up. Pull the highlights down. See, the highlights here are going to be tricky because you can see the branches and the trees in the back are starting to come out. I'm actually going to pull the highlights about half down. Pull the shadows up. This will brighten him. And I'm going to do the whites and blacks thing. Yeah, it doesn't take much to get those whites out, considering there's a lot of stuff. So this is like the truest white spot in the picture right there. Take the black, push it down a little bit more. Boom. So this is like the truest black in the image is in the back of his pants. The clarity, I think I'll take up a little bit. Vibrance, I'm definitely going to push. I like vibrance a lot because it really just gives a lot of life to a picture. I probably have said that like 3 times already, but actually I'll leave the saturation where it was. And these are more fine-tuned highlights. One thing you have to be careful with about highlights is that if I pull it down too far, it gets a little bit kind of gray and kind of dead back here, or like right here. So I like to make sure that even if it's like technically overexposed, that there's still like the life of white in that area, rather than pulling the white so far down that the white ends up just turning like dead gray, because that's not what I want. I'd rather have it be overexposed than have it be dead. Push the shadows down just a little bit. See right now, before, after. Do split toning again. Pull until it's in the blue area. It's about where I like it. Saturation up. that until maybe like right there. There we go. Just changes the tone of the picture ever so slightly. Sharpening. I'm going to push this. Get masking up. Noise reduction I'll probably do like 15. 15 is about, unless it's a very special scenario, 15 is about my limit on luminance and noise reduction, because if you take it too far up, it just looks, the picture just looks like entirely like you put like one giant like soft focus Instagram filter over the picture that just blurs everything, and that's not really an aesthetic that I go for. That's pretty much it. I might pull the individual blues up. I'm gonna see if it'll pull some blues through on this concrete, because the concrete at the skate park is very blue based, and sometimes I like to really push those blues in it, like right there. I mean, it looks kind of fake, but you know, I just kind of like the way that looks when I push the blues a little bit in there. It gives it more of a, I don't know, dreamlike vibe, if you will. And I could push the luminance down and make it like dark blue, you know, really dark blue, really push it, but that just looks incredibly silly. I have to be careful too, because not only am I pushing the blues down here, but I'm also pushing the blue in his shirt and potentially any blues that are coming through on his pants or on the scooter. That's one thing about color values you have to watch out for, is it'll pick up the color tone of everything in the picture. And like greens, I'm actually going to push greens down a little bit, because sometimes the Vibrance likes to pick up green a lot, and it makes my greens look very green, like almost glowing, but I can counteract that by pulling the greens down just a little bit in saturation. I think that's it. I think I'm good with this picture. Export it. Back to the library. See anything exciting's happening on Twitter. Probably not. It's like nothing ever exciting happening on Twitter. If you're me and you have a bad attitude about the entire world, then that's pretty much it. Okay, let's go back. I think I might edit one of these pictures that I really like and then probably call it quits. Like this one. Really like this one. See, he's like super duper orange, but it was like golden hour, so the sunset sunlight was just right directly beaming on him. Man, that's a good shot. Because what I could do is pull the temperature down in the picture to counteract the orange from the sun. But I don't want to do that, because I'll end up split toning it blue a little bit anyway, so that'll neutralize it a tiny bit. But let's do pretty much the same thing as last time. Crank the contrast. Oh, wow, that was a lot. I'll do it. I can clean it up with shadows later. Man, that was really intense. Let me dehaze a little bit. Clean it up. Let's just do like 10. Probably the highlights. See, this is good because if I pull the highlights down, you can see his body more, because the sun was beaming directly on him and he was pretty pale. So it was blowing out his torso or overexposing it a little bit. So if I pull that down, that'll bring his body back through a little bit, which is something I want. Pull the shadows up to get the trees back and his pants back a little bit. Let's do the whites. Oh, the whites are already there. Looks like we've got a true white and the light bulb back there. I'll just leave it. The blacks are probably already into, oh yeah, because the contrast is really cranked in those shadows. So right now we have before, after, before, after, before, after. The clarity, I'm actually going to push the clarity, yeah, push the vibrance. See, I like the vibrance here because it makes the sky bluer. I'll probably crank the blues later because I want the sky to look blue. Probably crank it and lighten it. I pull the saturation down just one touch to pull some of the orange off of him. These highlights, see, I can pull these down and it'll see, this is going to be problematic. If I pull them down too much, it brings so much of his body through that his body looks kind of ashy and gray because it's really canceling out that the overexposure of his chest. So I actually want to bring it back up a little bit so I can keep his body orange and keep it less just less dead looking. Pull the lights up. Nope, no, that was dangerous. Actually gonna pull the lights down a little bit to keep his body coming through. Pull the darks up for sure, just a little bit. Push the shadows down a tiny bit. Okay, so we have before, after, before, after. Actually, I might push those highlights back. I'm worried that his body's going to end up being a very weird shade because this picture is so interestingly toned, I guess. Let me pull split toning and see what it does. See, I like that because it neutralized him just enough. In the shadows, I can do the same thing. Shadows back down. See, because the split toning here, the picture is tinted very red. And then when I put the split toning on, it just makes it look a little bit more normal, a little bit more sort of regularly toned, if you will, potentially to its detriment. Pull the sharpening up, really want to sharpen up his body. But I'm going to push the masking up. I'm going to take the, oh jeez, come on. Pull the masking down. I think I'm going to take the luminance up about 10. And then pull the vignette down. I think I'm going to go in for the blue too. Let me see. That blue up. Oh yeah, make that sky really blue. That's one thing that I like doing, is really pushing the sky color. Push the aqua up too. Might let's see, maybe like that. So before, after, before, after. I actually might pull the shadows down just a little bit more. Pull the blacks down a little bit. I'm going to back off on the clarity some too. Clarity is one of those things that can like really fuck with your shit. Okay. Before, after, before, after, before, after. I think that's pretty good. good enough for now. And the nice thing about Lightroom is that even when you're finished exporting it and you think you're finished and everything, you can always come back and edit it again. You can make a virtual copy and edit that. It's not one of those things where once you're done and that's it. You can edit a photo about 100 different ways if you want to. I kind of want to give one of these a shot. Come on. Which one do I like more? This is one of those shots that could work as a landscape too. I prefer landscapes over portraits, but I think that picture actually looks better as a portrait. Like that golden light on him, it's really nice. Dehaze it a little bit. Check the highlights. I like pulling the highlights down when there's clouds in the sky because it really brings the clouds out in the sky. Pull the shadows up a lot, actually. The whites probably are almost there now. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Back that off. Black. Push it down a little bit. Picture's looking very orange. What is it that's making it so orange? Could push the temperature down one. Actually, I'm going to back the clarity off on this one a little bit. Pull the vibrance up. It'll really pull the blues out in the sky, which I like. Saturation, I'm going to take it down one. Let's see. I'm actually going to leave highlights because if I pull it down too much, it just makes everything look dead. If I push it up, it makes things look a little bit more vibrant. I'm just going to leave it. Let the lights do the work. Pull the lights up. Pull the darks up. And push the shadows down. Actually, I might pull the lights back down a little bit. Push those blues in the sky. Really push them. Okay. Saturation as usual for split toning. Pull it up on right on purple, I think. Shadow saturation. Yeah, leave it right around the blue. Sharpening, push that up, masking, push the luminance up twice, just soften it a little bit. I had my ISO down a little bit on these pictures so they're less grainy from when I took them. They're a little bit crisper. Pull the vignette down. One thing, this picture is probably not going to be a very good example for it, but one thing that I really like to do in clouds, and this is something I haven't done yet, is use this adjustment brush over here. I like to crank the dehaze up, crank the saturation up a little bit, pull the sharpness down some, pull the exposure down a little bit, and this might look a little bit ridiculous when I do it, but I really like to run it over like clouds and sky areas, and as you can see, it's just darkening the area. I mean, it looks really silly right here because this is not a great example, but it really deepens that sky color. And it really brings those clouds out. That's one thing that I really like to do, because it's one of those things where, like, you know, it looks kind of silly, but I really dig it. And I can pull the exposure up some just to make it look a little bit less ridiculous. Because the dehaze is really kind of what pushes it. You know, you push it up and suddenly it's very blue and very saturated. So I can back it off a little bit. But I just like, see, if I step back to before I did that, then, you know, that's before, that's after. It's just like kind of a subtle difference. I'm going to push the exposure down just a tiny bit. I just like, I value skies in pictures a lot, and I enjoy manipulating skies, making clouds look very gray and almost thunderstormy, rather than it just being like one giant white cast in the sky. Boom. And I think that's it. Before, after, before, after, before, after. He looks very orange, but that is kind of the point of the picture after all. Come on. I don't know. I might come back to these later. Export. Boom. How many do I have? This should be my 5th export. Yeah, there it goes. It's coming through. Okay. Gonna wait for that to come through and we can look at my other exports. Yeah, that's a good picture. It's alright. This kid over here on the left with the glasses used to have really long hair, like shoulder length, like curly, ridiculous hair. And I actually much prefer his hairstyle now that it's shorter, because he's got that kind of like, it's kind of like frizzy and about to curl, but it's not quite there yet because it's at a short length. And I like his shorter hair a lot. I don't really like long hair on dudes, like, at all. But of course it's not my hair. It's not really my business, but I just think his hair looks better shorter. Well, who knows if the stream has been any good or not, because YouTube's been telling me that my streaming has been bad the whole time. The quality has been bad, so maybe I'll get better at it. I think I'm going to close the stream out for now. So if the stream is archived on my YouTube page and you're watching it, then thank you for watching it. If you're watching it live, thank you for watching it. I hope that this has been informational or interesting. It's probably been really boring, actually. Probably something to fall asleep to with my monotonous voice. I should have subtitled this like the ASMR, like photo editing workshop or something. And yeah, this is just a little bit of a view into the way that I sort pictures, the way that I kind of my Lightroom, my workflow. I guess workflow is the right word. My workflow for Lightroom and pictures like this, and sort of talking to you about the way I edit, the way I try to take pictures, just some stuff like that. So maybe it's been interesting, maybe it's been really boring, but if you're watching this, thank you. And I think I'm going to close the stream out now. I might do this again in the future, because I mean, it's sort of one of those like, why not things. But I don't know, we'll see. But thank you for tuning in, and I will potentially be doing this again. We'll see.